All right, let's turn that a little bit. Let's talk enforcers. So right now, Derek Dorsett is the news of the NHL because he's got 5 goals in a very young season. Could he score 20? 15? Enforcers sometimes do score goals. So let's go with the top 10 seasons and how many goals they scored. And let's rate it by how surprising those seasons were. So the most surprising is at the top and the least surprising is at the bottom. That's where the debate comes in. It's not just a matter of when enforcers scored the most goals. It's surprise. Basile Mcrae's number 10 on the list. He had 12 goals. I'll put the year up here too. Stop. Cats, not you guys. 88, 89. So Basile Mcrae was an enforcer. He was a pure enforcer. He and Shane Churla patrolled the ice for the Minnesota North Stars together, and it was just twin terrors. And as a North Stars fan, I always found it fun to watch him out there. And I like Churla and Mcrae. Sometimes the enforcers are guys that you don't really like much personally, but usually an enforcer is the nicest guy. Usually off the ice, the enforcer is the nicest guy on the team. And maybe it's because he's more humble in terms of, this is my role. I may not be here for very long. I'll enjoy it while it lasts. Rather than your top 6 or your top 3 forward, who maybe has an attitude like, yeah, I know I'm the best and I'm going to be here forever. And, could be part of it. Or maybe because they know they can take you in a fight if something happens. Number 9. George Laraque. George Laraque had 13 goals in 2000-2001. And he never had anywhere near that before or after. George Laraque's a great guy. I've seen him a few times on Tim and Sid, and he's a great guy. I really think that, and I know a friend of mine met him in Alberta. Just kind of out and about, like, hey, you're George Laraque. And stood around talking to him, and he said he's a really, really nice guy. And Laraque seems like a guy that was really popular with his teammates too, and he would probably be a ton of fun to talk to as well, I would imagine. Just going on theory, I guess. Number 8. Why are you wearing a Red Wings jersey in the previous video? Well, I had to do the waiver thing first because I just seen that on TSN, but when I knew I was doing a video on enforcers, I had to wear Red Wings because Joey Kocur had 16 goals in 89-90. Kocur was one of the toughest tough guys. He was legit scary. And tough guys aren't always the biggest, but they win their fights, and Kocur did that. And I will say straight up that this list will feature some players who are no longer with us, and that's shocking in terms of if I did a top 10 list of almost any other kind of player from the 80s or 90s, they're almost all still with us. So enforcers really have a rather thankless job. And it can be hard for these guys when they try to transition into life after hockey. So 7th on the list. And remember, this is in terms of surprise. Because there may be people watching this saying, wait, Gino Odjick had 16 goals in a season? My answer would be, yeah, he played with Pavel Bure that year. They were on the same line. So Odjick 16 goals. It's surprising. It would be more surprising if not for the fact that he played with Bure, which was just unfair to the rest of the league. So that's why it's 7th and not higher up. Number 6, another Canucks season here. Tiger Williams had 35 goals in 80-81. And this would be higher on the list other than the fact that Tiger had other 20-goal seasons. And he showed that he could play, and he scored those 35 goals during one of the highest scoring seasons in, I think it was the highest scoring season in NHL history. It's either 80-81 or 81-82. Either way, 30 goal scorers were relatively common at that point. So it's an impressive total, but Tiger was playing on a poor Canuck team, and he did score goals in other seasons as well. Number 5. I know not everybody likes him. I was in that bunch too. But over the last year, Nick Kypreos has kind of won me over as an announcer. Yeah, he's still kind of ignorant, and he still kind of brushes things off that he doesn't want to talk about. But Nick's 17 goals in 92-93 were the best of his career. And this again shows that some of what this shows is that guys that reach the NHL as enforcers can still play hockey. They're just not asked to play hockey. They're asked to fight. And now in the NHL, the one-dimensional fighter is basically extinct. That's why this list is made up of so many guys that played a long time ago. You're not going to see a John Scott on this list because he didn't have a season where he scored way more goals than other years. He didn't really have a surprise season. He didn't have much chance, nor, you could argue, because of his foot speed, was he ever going to, or did he earn that? Number 4 is an actual current player in the NHL. Cody Mcleod had 15 goals in 08-09. My excuse looking at his stats, he must have been too young to know better. 15 goals. So with ice time, Cody Mcleod will score for you. But he's a fighter. That's his role. And he plays it. And he's relatively good at it. Funny thing is, the better a guy is at fighting, the lower his penalty minutes go. Because people don't want to fight him anymore. It's like, after seeing a guy clock 3 or 4 different guys in a period of a month, yeah, nobody wants to fight that guy anymore. Need you go on the ice and fight Mcleod. I'm not fighting him. That's not happening. Do you want to fight Tanner Glass? Yeah, I'll fight Tanner Glass. That's fine. Number 3. Mike Peluso, 15 goals, 92-93. I was just kidding about Tanner Glass. Peluso's 15 goals were way above his average before or after any season he had before or after. And I liked Peluso as a player. I did. And I had high hopes as a Senators fan at the time. But offensively, it never worked out for him. So, again, that's how it works out. And I want to say before I get to 2 and 1, if you're waiting for an enforcer who was actually just a really good player, too, he's not going to be on this list necessarily unless he had one explosive season. If he had a bunch of really good years, he's not on this list. So I don't want anybody mad at me when I reveal that Bob Probert's number 2. He had 29 goals. And he had that in 87-88. This was the year where I think if Don Cherry could legally have married Bob Probert, he would have. And Don Cherry's a straight man, but I think he would have legally married Bob Probert at the time. You could have a game between Montreal and Calgary, and he wouldn't stop talking about Probert. Like he absolutely was enamored with Bob Probert. And this is why number 1's really tough to put up here, because he might be the most reviled hockey player in NHL history. He's up there. Chris Simon is up there. And Chris Simon is legitimately one of the most hated players, and for good reason. So let me explain before people get upset. 87-88 goals were easier to come by than 99-2000. Bob Probert with the Wings in 87-88, I would argue, had better line mates than Simon in 99-2000. Simon's goals. Now, while people are going, oh, who are the line mates? He's wrong. Before he... All right. I know how this works. Damn it. Chris Simon dropped to 10 goals the next year. Bob Probert dropped to 20. Chris Simon never showed any scoring acumen before or after this. And they tried. Washington tried really hard to get another 20-goal season out of him, and other teams he went to after tried to get him back to that power forward role. That's the thing. None of these guys are power forwards, although Probert's damn close. At this point in his career, Bob Probert was as close to a power forward as he got, rather than just an enforcer. But his penalty minute totals stayed the same, and his goals and points dropped. In terms of power forwards, you could argue that Tiger kind of was, but not really. I mean, Tiger could fight, but I don't remember him throwing a lot of, power forward type body checks. He'll take your head off. And Kipper, I think there was some vision at some point that he might be a power forward in the NHL, and it just never panned out for him. And again, I don't dislike Kipper as much as a lot of other people do. In fact, I've listened to him enough over the last year that I've said, you know what, he's not a bad guy. He's fine. A lot of times he's just trolling us, knowing we're watching him. And trolls Simon, yeah. And I just think of the long, greasy looking hair of Chris Simon. He always looked greasy, and I get it. I get that Chris Simon is not a popular player, but to me that's the most surprising goal total ever put up by an enforcer. With honorable mentions to Terry O'Reilly for his 90-point season he had as a Boston Bruin. Forget the goals, 90 points, but O'Reilly was a top 6 forward. And with the honorable mention to Derek Dorsett's 12 goals back in 2011-2012. Is Dorsett going to be on this list at the end of this year? If I do this again next year, do I do it next year because Dorsett's on the list? Maybe. Let me know your picks in the comment section below. I know this list isn't going to make everybody happy, especially 1 and 2. Believe me. Probert second only because he was a better player than Simon. Simon's totals were more surprising. Let me know your surprise totals and surprise lists. And for those wondering, I'm also going to look and see if I can find surprising poor seasons for really good players. And see if I can come up with an interesting list that way. So this is the Derek Dorsett video you guys have wanted because he's got 5 goals. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. And thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.